Okay, so despite the hair, I am not a Trump supporter, but I am observant and I do work in media. So let's talk about two ways that Trump plays the media quite well. And the first one is that he always shifts the conversation past the goalpost. And a really good example of this, like what I mean by this, is that he'll say like, we're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. So in that sentence, there's like a lot to unpack. And so first, like, we're going to build a wall, sounds ridiculous. But by saying, like, Mexico is going to pay for it, it shifts the conversation not from we're going to build a wall to Mexico is going to pay for it. And people then squabble over the fact they're like, oh, Mexico is not going to pay for it. That's ridiculous. And leave building a wall a bygone conclusion in their mind. At least inherently, when it gets pressed over and over and over again. And he does this all the time. Now, granted, this is a human that has been bred in the media. He's grown up and had practice like interacting with the media for decades and decades and decades, so he's much better at it than a normal politician. But he does this all the time. Like, we're going to build this fantastic 50-story tower, and we're going to do it under budget by $10 million. And then people argue, like, $10 million, that's ridiculous, da-da-da-da-da, there's no way he'll get it under budget. And they've already, gone past the conclusion that he's going to build a 50-story tower in some ridiculous part of Manhattan or the country that makes no sense. Or I built this ice rink and did a fantastic job and I did it, in under time. And people argue like, well, no, he didn't do it in under time. Like, it took him excess time. But then they've already left out the fact that he said, I did it well and it's a fantastic job and it turned out great. They've left that as a bygone conclusion. So they're no longer arguing like, well, wait, maybe he didn't do the ice rink very well. And instead arguing that he didn't do it on time. So whenever he suggests something or says something, he always shifts it one step forward and draws the focus on to the slightly more extreme thing and pulling the attention away from the first statement. And the media gets their attention sucked like this all the time to the second half of the statement. So watch it. He does it all the time with buildings, with government policies. We're going to shut down the government. It's going to be good, and it'll be for the longest time ever if necessary. And then people start arguing like, longest time ever is necessary, and already leave we're shutting down the government for a good reason as a bygone conclusion. It's like, wait, we got to back up and look at the first half of the sentence, or the phrase, or the idea that he's putting out there. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to talk about is the way he presents ideas, and that he's hyper-visual in his descriptions. He's like, the premiums are so high, you got to get hit by a Katsumitsu truck in order to cash in on them. Or, we're going to build a wall, and it's going to be this great, beautiful brick wall, 10 feet thick and iron slabs. And he starts painting this picture that you can, visualize in your mind really, really well. And he's very good at doing this, which a lot of politicians also don't do, and people in general just don't do. They're not good at drawing precise visualizations about ideas that they want to talk about. And Donald Trump does this all the time. He talks about, we're going to build the best, Trump hotel or casino. It's going to have beautiful glistening lights, and it's going to look like Constantinople in the 1500s, and it's going to be a place of the kings, and perfect red plush velvet, and perfect formica. He uses all the perfect visual terms that really plant an image of something in his audience's mind, and this is just a really useful persuasion technique. That it gets, once again, the media hooked on an idea because he's able to paint it in a way that most people can understand. They can wrap their head around the visualization. And by doing that, it gets people to listen to it, it gets people to stick in their mind, it gets the media to pay attention. So those are the two ways that I observe Donald Trump handle the media very well. There's a bonus example that comes to mind in that he's very transactional. So I think a lot of times people don't appreciate how transactional journalism is, and that at the end of the day you're looking for something that's clickable, right? Especially in the modern era. And that if you have a story and you call up a lead for a story, and be like, hey, I want to talk to you about this, and you're the subject, you're going to be the subject of the story, Bob Smith, and Bob Smith doesn't want to be the subject of the story, but Bob Smith has a different story that might be more clickable. They can be like, well, hey, reporter Jack, forget me. Let me tell you about, Cynthia or, Logan. Wait until you get a load of this story. And this happens all the time. It's very transactional in journalism. I was like, well, don't worry about this story. I can give you an even better story. And journalists, operate this way all the time. Be like, well, hey, I kind of got this, but what do you have for me? Like, can you give me something better? Work with me, John. Work with me, Bob. And Trump does this all the time by whenever he says something outrageous or the media picks up on something that he's done that's outrageous, what he does is he immediately will say something else outrageous, or just slightly enough odd that'll be transactional, and once again lead the journalist away from the story they were writing and on to the next thing. And so never each story is never quite complete and fully investigated or researched a lot of the time, because the media and journalists, both on the microscopic level and the macro level, are constantly getting sucked to the next story, sucked to the next site, right? A little piece of meat, and they're just they're leaping for the next one out, as Trump says something controversial or newsworthy or noteworthy or clickable, and they immediately leap to the next one without fully researching out or building out a contextualized analysis of what Donald Trump just said or suggested, or what this means. What does it mean that Donald Trump lied about Stormy Daniels, etc. When he then immediately will say oh, something different, or something else extraordinary will come out. And so it'll cause the media to shift, react once again to try to cover the news story and be newsworthy and be right on top of it, rather than fully digging in on what they already have. So that's kind of a bonus way that Donald Trump once again plays the media really well, and understanding that people operate under deadlines and that they always want to be kind of the first there. So if you can give them something new or better, they'll hop ship right away. They'll kind of leave their plate, what they're working on at the moment, and shift to the next one. So there you guys go. There's 2 and a bonus one I threw in for ways that Donald Trump plays the media really well. If you're interested in more videos about the media, subscribe this way. There'll be a new video tomorrow. Anyway, just a thought, you guys. Have a good morning.